Hi, this is Brian Whitaker at Wits End Ranch, and today I'm on a little bit different horse. I'm going to be doing some roping today, and I'm going to show you how useful this speed trainer is. What makes this speed trainer so valuable to me for both the teaching aspect of roping and for the students is the horsemanship side of roping, which is a huge part of it. You could have 10 people that rope on the ground pretty similar, and then you get them on even the same horse, and the levels become much more defined. The main reason I like this speed trainer is I can help people to get advanced with their roping while working on their horsemanship exponentially faster than you could just helping someone on the ground with roping. The main thing about the speed trainer are two things, really. With the instantaneous feedback you get from your riding hand attached to the reins. Attach the regular roping reins right to the bridle of the speed trainer, and it's a live instantaneous feedback of how much I'm pulling. And there's two parts of this. Right now, I'll just show you the first part. And that's like green means you're just getting slack out of the reins. You're just kind of getting your horse collected or bridled up or just signaling to them, just stand here in the box. You've got two yellows. Here's the first, the second. It's nice to have the two yellows because there might be times where you need to apply a little more pressure to the reins if you got a horse that's a little strong and you're trying to get them to soften up, or you're really running fast down the arena, stuff like that. And of course, you've got your red, where you've probably applied too much pressure to the reins. Now, what's nice about this, when I release it, it'll give me a little pause, and it'll show me how much I pulled at any given one time. So, for example, if I pulled to the first yellow and release, it'll show this is the most amount you applied pressure to the reins. Now, if I apply too much, even just for a moment, it's going to show me how much I applied. I do really like this because it's absolutely instantaneous, and the lights that you're seeing on the front of the horse, I am also seeing the same exact thing on the backside right here on the side of the horse. So it's something that I, on the ground helping a student, can see as well as the rider, how much pressure is being applied. Where this really comes in handy is, of course, during the run, but where a lot of people, especially people that haven't ridden one-handed with their horse or aren't really paying attention, I've noticed it with people that have roped a long time, is how much, say, when they're doing this kind of thing, when they're coiling it up, they don't realize. And I always say, in between your runs, put slack in your reins. There's a reason those reins are a certain length. There's a reason why I do not like reins that barely just come around the horse's neck, because you either have to release them or you're always here, which is an awkward position to be in, or more than likely, you're always kind of have some sort of contact with that horse. Now, just from my own experience and from my observation, horsemanship is really what separates people out the most. And I'm not just talking about roping. It's whatever you do with a horse. The more you work on quality horsemanship, the more that can excel you exponentially or separate you out from whatever you're trying to do. That was the one thing that I knew I could be as an advantage to me, was working on my horsemanship. To me, it just made more sense. If I can get my horse to do exactly what I want it to do at any given time, that will be an advantage, and it's just a better experience for whatever I'm doing. So I definitely worked a lot of my roping on the ground, horseback, but I really applied a lot to the horsemanship. And that's where this useful tool really has its advantages, is it gives you that instantaneous feedback. I can't stress that enough. Instead of me telling you, hey, you're pulling on the reins, there's a lot of times if I'm helping someone for even, let's just say, an hour, I might be feel like to say 60 times during that hour, hey, you're pulling too much on the reins. Hey, while you're sitting there talking to me, you're pulling on your horse, and that's why your horse doesn't want to stand still. That's why they develop all these quirks that seemingly seem like quirks or habits, because just little things, when your reins are shorter or you don't release them, just imagine how much now just standing here talking, and when you're making coils and you're not paying attention to your left hand, how much that can just really annoy the horse. So now I don't have to be always saying that. It's a visual thing, and part 2 of that is coming up about the other part of this that makes it so great. The other thing that makes the Speed Trainer so great is you can put any saddle on this, and it's solid. There's no twisting, and there's no counterbalancing a saddle moving. I've used, the blue barrels before on a stand. There's a lot of reasons I don't like that. One is what I talked about. Those saddles will slip, and people are always trying to counterbalance or sitting crooked. The other thing is they don't have a neck and a head on the horse, which makes it a lot different roping. And if they do, and you do connect reins, you generally have someone that once they get on a horse does this, because they've learned there's no feedback, there's no negative effect of always balancing on the horse's reins. So they'll come and do this a lot. They'll balance on these reins and wonder why they can't get their horse to move up, or their horse is frustrated because they're balancing. They're applying way too much pressure. They're compensating for their lack of balance by pulling on the mouth. And now that will show up in this. All right, let me just demonstrate here. Let's just say I'm out in the arena or out in a pasture roping. And I'm just going to show you what I would do here. Tip over the target. Delivery. Now as I dally, I'm going to slow my horse down just a little bit. All right, now my horse is working good. We're done. Release. Now I can see how far I pulled, which was the second yellow. And that's going to be some useful information to me of how much pressure I applied to the reins. Okay, now with a little flip of a rocker switch, I'm going to show you what part 2 of this that makes this Speed Trainer really valuable. Here's another thing that I really like, is they did a really good job of giving you some options of where to put your saddle and how to secure it. It's secured by the back cinch as well as the front on both sides. And you can see now that when I mount, which I always tell people, treat this like a real horse. Would you get on without the reins? If you do, that's a mistake, because if your horse took off, you don't have any reins, and then when you finally get a hold of them, you grab them quickly. You snatch them. You can see there's no movement in this saddle, and the Speed Trainer itself is real solid. Now I'm going to demonstrate what it would be like perhaps in a roping box. And if you never want to rope out of a box in a chute in your whole life, this still has a lot of value. I'm going to show what it would be like even if you don't ever want to rope and you want to get just a little contact with your horse. Maybe they ask him to soften up, then you would get to green here. Say, soften up on those bridle reins, and then you release. But now, just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to be in a box. So it's just a little bit, a roping box, a little bit of contact, just to tell my horse, just wait on me. And then I'm going to release forward, get a little weight, balls of my feet, rope. Okay, now as I dally, I'm going to say slow down. Now you hear part 2 of that. That's the auditory part, which is so useful, which people get really frustrated with. And then as I pull, the sound changes. It's not quite louder maybe, but it changes, like, hey, more pressure. So it's what the horse has probably always been thinking is now an auditory sound. So when I get too far, it's basically screaming at me like, hey, that's too much pressure. This is where a lot of people, as they're fumbling around, they do a lot of this, a lot of that. And it really does teach them, hey, drop your hand down, release pressure. But then when there's a time to apply pressure, how much pressure are you applying? So exponentially, the more pressure I apply, the more lights light up, the more the sound comes into effect. As I go, and then it tops out. And incidentally, there's a setting on that for the sensitivity. I have as sensitive as it'll go. So even just mounting the horse, people have trouble, especially when they have a rope, but have a lot of problems when they mount the horse of either not having the reins or having too much. So I always tell people, hey, treat this like a real horse, like you're really gonna when you get on. So I'll be here, and I'm gonna have slack out. The most I'll ever maybe get to green is if I feel like my horse is about to move, but that should be it. I should never, as I get on, get anywhere in the yellow. Should be here, and let's say my horse started to move, I might get to green, and then get on. So just little things like that that become a big deal, that help the rider be more aware of what their left hand is doing. So that's the auditory and visual for the horse's mouth. There is another aspect of it, and that's your legs and how much you may or may not be using them. A lot of people, when they feel like they're late, their legs don't do much. This thing is great. It's designed with a really thick rubber mat right where your legs are. So you can apply a little pressure, or if you feel like you need to, and you can apply some pressure and it'll be just totally fine. So let me do kind of a normal, maybe a jackpot run out of the box. Again, this isn't just for people that want to team rope, or it could be for ranch roping. You could even use it just to be better at your horsemanship, to do other activities, to see, like now, I'm going to try and stay in green, see how long I can stay there. That's pretty good. Nod my head. Oops, a little bit too much as I think about nod my head. Release. Use my legs. Rope. Get my horse slowed down. A little bit too strong there. So that would be something that I can adjust a little bit as well. It's great because you can be as slow as you want or as fast as you want roping or doing whatever you want. And again, it's really solid.